We are episode 25 of the Preferred Experience Podcast. It's been almost 2 years since we've been on with the Preferred Experience Podcast. To say the least, some life events have been going on, but the Preferred Experience Podcast is back on. And I'm, of course, Will Barrett. Everybody knows who I am. I'm just kidding. Nobody knows me. But you do know our guest today. He is none other than Coach Caleb Ross, a journeyman all over the country, and he's come back to the great state of Alabama. Coach, thanks for spending some time with us today.
No, man, appreciate y'all guys having me on. It's pretty cool. I didn't realize 25. I did not know that.
This is episode number 25. The last one we had was August of 23. That was the last one we had with Stacy Little at his laboratory, his food laboratory. It was awesome. But needless to say, things happened. They got the Preferred Experience Podcast had to be derailed for a little while to take care of some life stuff. But here we are again. And I can't think of a better way to kick it off, to restart the podcast with having our buddy Caleb Ross with us today. And you got your daughter with you today.
We do. Rebecca Claire, I'm glad she's in. She wanted to see how this all works. She was very curious. So I told her, I said, I'm not real sure how it's going to work. But I appreciate y'all having me on. I'm honored, man. This is pretty cool.
Well, we like to keep it low-key right here, unless you want to take it high-key, of course. But so we've been having a hard time getting our schedules together. You got young kids. You got Jack playing baseball right now, trying to get stuff together. And you are not even coaching him, are you?
I'm not. No, one of the things I did for taking the job, I wanted to coach. But then when the team he got picked up on, they already had a good little crew of coaches and stuff. So I said next year I'm going to get out ahead. And I did all these, Pike Road leagues, whatever. You got to do all this pre-background checks, all these things. I did 3 hours worth of work, and I think I gave away a kidney to build a coach and didn't get to. So anyway, I'm certified now. So
is it tough to sit on the sideline while he's being coached? I mean, I know coaching's in your DNA.
No, I'm a little. I had to be when you coach y'all. If you all y'all know, if you coach your kid, it is a lot of restraint. That's probably the best thing I could say. A lot of restraint, because you want them to enjoy it. You want them to be, you don't want their dad hovering over them. But there's times when you just can't help yourself. And I do pretty good. I'll go 2 or 3 games and let them coach him. And then there may be something where I get loud, and Amy will remind me, hey, you got to sit. You got to go somewhere else. Don't sit next to me doing all that. So, but I try to. I don't want to be that guy. That's in the stands hollering, screaming at his kids. So I try to let it go. Every now and then, though, the coaching part gets the best of it.
It bubbles up to the surface.
It does.
The coaching bubble very near the surface.
Yeah.
Now I'm old enough. Mills back there was old enough to remember, and you're old enough to remember a time when kids played a season of baseball, a season of basketball, and a season of football. But those days are vanishing rapidly with the rise of travel ball and all this stuff. It's 365. I mean, when's it going to be enough?
So in our household, I remember coming up, go a little background. My roommate in college, we used to joke around about all these because it was starting to happen. Like, man, we're never going to be that, yada, yada. Well, then I guess going back, 12, 13 years ago, he invites me. He's from Mississippi. His little boy, they play in a travel ball tournament in Mobile. Invited us over, and it's like $40 to get in. And I'm like, man, who we seeing, the Yankees? And so I'm talking to Blake and his son, and man, they're playing in Mobile. They're going to Destin. They're going to Gatlinburg. And I'm like, you become that person. And so I was like, I'm not going to be that guy. Mm-hmm. We're going to be seasonal, like you said. Sure enough, we get into it. Jack gets asked to play travel ball, and there we are. We're buying the tents, and we got the whole deal. And it just puts you in a bind because you want what's best for your kid. But also you're afraid if he doesn't play and participate, he falls behind. Mm-hmm. And you want him, man, I want him to be good at it, but not to consume him. We played travel ball in Troy. I will say my son is very seasonal. He loves whatever sport is in. So if it's baseball season, he loves baseball. If it's football season, he loves football, basketball. But, just to stay competitive, because there's some really good little kids are good balls players. He's the one, he's got to go participate and do travel ball. So he got asked to play on a travel ball team, and we actually got practice this afternoon. So here we go. Right. Going against everything I said I wasn't going to do.
Yeah. But it's what the kids want to do.
Yeah, that's it. He enjoys it. He's starting to enjoy. I worried. I think we kind of burned him out with some of the travel ball stuff, but he's starting. I can tell he's playing, enjoying it, he's having fun, he's having a good little year. So I can tell he's starting to bring back some of that passion for it. And his buddies, he's starting to make good friends. They all play. So, hey, here we go.
That's right. That's right. Well, you've been around the game of football for a very, very, very long time. I say very, very long time. We're getting a little older these days.
I know
you got more white in your beard than last time I saw you.
I do. It's my hair is turning white and it's turning loose. So I can't fight it. I hate it.
Yeah, when I was playing around with my little aerial camera here, and I was doing testing it out and everything, I looked down. I was like, "What's that spot on the top of my head? What?
Oh boy!
No.
And you notice I got a hat on now.
No. It's
permanent hats.
It's sad. I fight it every day.
As you can see here, I'm having to wear a hat now because it's running away fast.
Yeah, and we look like Santa Claus with this white beard soon. So anyway.
But when the first time I met you, the first time I talked to you as the head coach at Prattville High School, I knew like this guy's bigger than high school football. This guy's going to coach in college one day, and that was kind of your dream, right?
It was
to be a college football coach, and you did that.
I really had, I guess we all have dreams, but I had two. I remember in getting into coaching, I wanted to one day be the head coach of Prattville High School. Mm-hmm. I really did. I always wanted to come back. If it had to make sense, timing and all that, but I wanted that, and I wanted to coach college, and I got to do both of those things. So it's like when you're at Prattville, and we got settled. We were trying to build it, and trying to build a program, do all those things, and then I remember when I got offered that college job. Man, that was a hard decision because you just think of like, man, I got to finally fulfill one big dream, and you take that job, and you're like, I don't know if the college thing's ever going to work out, but you know what? If we spend the rest of our life back in our hometown, raising our kids, being the head coach, man, that's a pretty good life. And then, Chip Lindsey called at the time. He was head coach at Troy, offered me the job, and we did it, and it was a great experience, man. I did 4 years of college football. I don't regret it. We got some cool experiences. Man, and got to do a lot. I mean, I was labeled as an analyst, but man, and I was at smaller. I guess not. Troy's not small, but it's not SEC either. So I got to coach. I got to do a lot of coaching. I got to be involved in a lot of game planning. I don't regret it. But it comes to a point where's this going? You know what I mean? And my kids are getting older. You just kind of, it's that rub in life of like, hey, yeah, I want to go fulfill these dreams, but what I can't live with myself if I'm not a good dad, if I'm not a good father, not a good husband. And that lifestyle, college is totally different, man.
It's a grind.
It is a grind. I can't. I got buddies that coach high school, and being a head high school coach was a grind. I mean, when you're the head coach at Prattville High School, it's not a 40-hour work week. It's just not. Even in the off season,
it's about 4 full-time jobs, as I remember.
Man,
and you got to be the administrator, you got to be the janitor, you got to be the head coach.
Well, that's what the stuff me and Stacy were talking not too long ago. Man, they've got a better setup now with Blake Bourne there. I mean, he's doing a lot of the stuff I was trying to get done as the head football coach.
Yeah.
I mean, just some of the sponsorship stuff. But anyway, even high school football is not the grind college is. I used to think that it'd be comparable. You get in that college world, man, and just the recruiting aspect never stops. When you get home, which could be, man, in season, you're not going to get home that close to 11, 12 o'clock at night. But even this time of year, when you think you get home at 6:37, you got kids to call, kids to text. They're texting you back. And then Saturdays when you think, I'm going to go spend time with my family. No, you got a junior day, and you got to recruit and visit, and they're all day long events. You know what I mean? But you know what? It was. I worked for good people. It was a great experience, and it. Man, we actually enjoyed living down in Mandeville in the New Orleans area. Man, that was a cool experience. But anyway.
And as you were coming into college football, something else was coming into college football as well. A little thing called NIL.
Yep.
Right? And it's completely changed the landscape of college athletics.
It has.
And at Troy, there wasn't much of an NIL program. But at Tulane, when you left Troy and went to Tulane, then you had a collective to work with there. Talk about that and like how you have to manage that and the egos involved and all that.
It's you're right. At Troy, we didn't have much of one. We had a little bit of money. They were creating one and building it. Coach Summerall was doing a really good job of trying to get out in front of that and trying to build it. But Troy, in a lot of ways, reminds you a little bit like Prattville. I'll say this: it's a proud place, proud tradition. they'll come watch it on Saturdays. I mean, you'd be blown away. You'd go watch a really good Troy home football game. Anywhere 15, 20,000 people. And it could be on some, we've had 25. So they support it. But financially, they support it in facilities, but there just ain't a ton of like just big, booster donors and all that there. So you're having to really squeeze the lemon dry to get money. But
not a lot of Tim Cooks coming out of
no, there ain't. There's not. Yeah, there's not these multi-million-dollar boosters that are pumping $4 million into NIL. Sure. It's just not there. So what little money you raise there, you're doing it to retain the some of the players you have. But that becomes the rub. You may say, hey, I can give you, I can give you $40,000, and that may be over whatever, or $4,000 a month in 12 installments, or however that works. But then if West Virginia comes along, Texas A&M comes along and says, Troy's paying you $40, we'll pay you $275 and give you a vehicle. I mean, you're like, you can't compete with that. So you're right. You go to Tulane, and I know in this part of the world of people not familiar who Troy, or I know they know Troy, but John Summerall, people that were big Troy guys couldn't understand why would Coach Summerall leave Troy to go to Tulane? Isn't that a lateral move? And I said, well, I guess if you grow up as just a novel college football fan, you would think that. But if you know anything about college football deep, Tulane's just a bigger job. I mean, It's got more. It's in a bigger conference, and the money they have. I mean, we had a collective that could anywhere from $2 to $3 million.
Yeah.
So, like you're saying, if you're talking about Troy who may have $100,000, if that, maybe $200 now at this point, to spend on a roster, you go to Tulane where you got $2 to $3 million, you're going to get better players.
Sure. And it shows.
It does, and we have better players.
Top 25 program.
Here's the one thing I always get asked about the NIL, though, because they're like, how do you deal with those kids? How do you coach them with the egos? We never dealt with that at Tulane. Like, once the kids got there, because we didn't, and it's I never made any negotiation with any kid. Even our position coaches and coordinators really didn't do that. Coach Summerall probably did, but now they got these things in college football. Y'all seen them. They've hired general managers. Yeah, and it's really run more like a professional organization. And that person, and usually I know at Tulane, but when I left, we had two guys. We had a guy that managed our roster, and he kind of helped with recruiting and where we need to go and this and that and like all that. But then we had a guy that was a money guy, that he knew the details, ins and outs, how to work contracts and stuff. So, and it's crazy to think, looking back, like what college football has become. And because like the word that people, or the phrase or the saying that people will say is, I don't even recognize it.
Yeah.
And I get it. But I will say, once you finally got to the kids, they were great. I actually enjoyed.
Same kids.
Yeah. Because I would say this, always, like, when you're dealing with that level of athlete, you got to think these are the guys that probably are some of your better athletes in high school, physically, but also mentally. They're better. They want to win. They're there. They all have a dream. Yeah, they want to make a little money there, but a lot of these guys want to go play in the NFL. So it's like, once they stepped inside, not always, you dealt with a few issues, but once they stepped inside the meeting room or stepped on the practice field or stepped in the facility,
all business.
They were pretty business, and they were all ball. So I actually enjoyed that part. We didn't, like I said, we didn't deal with much, but you would hear of guys like, hey, Johnny called our collective and he said he needs more cash. He needs more money. Or you're like, well, Johnny needs to catch more balls on Saturday if he wants more, stuff like
performance-based NIL.
And you get some of that. Where it really gets ugly, the part that's, and it's starting to get out there now more, is the tampering and the agents. And when I mean what is nasty, and NCAA has no grip on this right now, is you've got these rogue agents who are representing these kids, and it probably starts now, but I remember about mid-season last year, they're starting to shake down these kids, and they're starting to shake down other rosters, and they're representing these other schools. So, like, our quarterback had a agent or whatever, and he's already shopping him around by week 5, week 6 to see what the bidder is on it. Mm-hmm. And it's just, and he's leveraging Tulane at the same time doing this. So if you can imagine, that's going on at Tulane at a smaller level. What's going on in the SEC?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Hugh Freeze came to the A+ banquet here. I think it was about last year.
Yeah,
maybe a year or two ago, and you could just see, like, the energy level that he normally brings. It wasn't quite there because they're asking questions about NIL, and he just kind of sinks in his chair. It's like, because you can tell it just drags on these guys because that's not what they signed up for when they started coaching college football years and years ago. It's completely a different animal now. And you mentioned in the SEC, the NIL collectives are just massive, and these kids are millionaires by the time they're 18 years old.
Here's what I struggle with. There's a lot of money being made in college football. You see the TV rights. These athletes, they're making it off their ability. They should be getting paid. They should. I 100% agree with this. Off of the true NIL. But what is going on is not NIL.
No, it's colleges paying players.
Pay for play. And you don't blame the kids because somebody's going to give me $1 million. Who's going to say no? If my son and say, hey, the school wants to pay him $1 million, no, we're not going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. So I don't blame the kid, but it's not name, image, and likeness. It's not his ability. It's just basically a pay for play. And that's the part that's just where it's hard to, it's just kind of gotten out of hand. And I don't know what they're going to do. The other part that when a coach comes out and there's some really good things that are being said, man, you got these social media bandits and they'll get on there and they're like, well, it's easy for him to say this coach makes $5 million a year or whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe that's fair. But his message is right. But it's almost like people start attacking the coach, and then the message gets lost. And that's what I don't understand, why people will go after. But I don't think anybody agrees with how this is sustainable. But anyway, that's the part of NIL. So when the season's over with, it's like we had a 3-week run there when the season's over with where you're dealing with your own roster. All of them are looking to better their situation.
Yeah.
And so they're all either getting shopped around by agents or they're wanting us to – some of them truly want to stay at Tulane. They made a home there. They like it there. But their agents is sitting there putting it in their ear, hey, Tulane may only give you 30, 40 grand a year. You can go make 100 here or whatever. So, and it's just like it was every day. You never knew who was going to walk in saying, hey, he's going to get in the portal.
It's got to be a mind scramble for these kids because they're thinking, $100,000 for some of these kids is like generational money.
That's right.
$1 million is, if I get this for a couple of years, I don't have to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
But they're one injury away from losing all that.
Yeah.
So that's got to be just a mind game. You're constantly having to re-recruit your own roster.
Constantly. And it's just the way, it's not that because how do you coach them? Well, really true, the best athletes mentally who are strong, they want to be coached. That's one thing now. They don't want you to be, but you have to approach it. The old Bear Bryant, the old do as I say, the military sergeant, those days are gone.
Yeah.
It's gone in any sport, but it's really gone. You can't, but always when I would coach, and I coach guys, but I was like, hey, I'm another set of eyes for you. Okay. You can listen to me. I can help you understand this offense, understand what you're supposed to do. And if you do that and buy in, I'm going to help you benefit your career. Obviously, we're going to win as a team, but your career, you're going to help market yourself. You're going to be a better player. And most of those guys truly understood that, so they let you coach them. But now, the days of just berating them in old school,
don't forget about it.
Yeah, if you do that now, they're
gone pretty quick.
I ain't got to deal with this.
Yeah.
And they don't. There's somebody out there, they'll be glad to take them. And what stinks for high school, and this is where I'm going to tie it back into high school sports, so the portal, because now if you've had 12 upperclassmen, or let's say another number, 21 juniors and seniors say they're going to go in the portal. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't go replace them with 21 high school kids because they're not ready.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do is your roster of 85 or 105 now, whatever it is, you look up, if there's 60 kids that are freshmen or sophomores, you're probably not going to win many games.
Probably not.
And then that administration is going to come to you and say, hey, you got to go, and we're going to bring in somebody else. So it forces the college coach then, I can't sign a high school kid. I got to go sign another college kid.
I got to get a guy with 3 years of experience.
And as a college guy, recruiting these guys, these guys got warts. Mm-hmm. I will say this, a lot of these guys, they're not great players, but they at least have experience. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, this kid's got a lot of flaws, but he's better than that raw kid coming out of high school that's got a bunch of potential because he's ready now. And the university isn't giving me 3 years to develop that kid. That's what's like.
And if that raw freshman comes in and sits on the bench for a year, he'll probably leave.
He's mad. Or if he comes in and is unbelievable and you're at a place like Tulane, he ain't going to be there anyway.
Right.
So it's like, let's just take the guy, the true veteran who's like, hey, man, this may be my last chance. I'm going to take him. He understood what college football is about. He may be a little more grateful. It may not leave me if he has a pretty good year. You know what I mean? It's just it's a catch. these college coaches, I know this just talking to the guys I work with and the guys I know they talk to other guys they had worked with. What is said in public is not what's being said behind closed doors. Because I think all these guys will come out in the public and say, well, it's just, man, you got to adapt or die. Man, college football, and some of them will gripe and stuff, but most of them, I ain't saying they're miserable.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is not what they signed up for 20-something years ago. But anyway.
So how do you obviously something's got to be done to put this genie back in the bottle to some degree. Can it be done?
I don't know. I think they got it at some point go to contracts. I think the universities are afraid to do that because you make them employees, and what happens to like insurance and leave and all the things, the tax issues with that,
just
and
a 1099.
all that stuff. I think universities don't want to take on those beasts, and then you got Title IX. I mean, there's so much, employee benefits. I think that's why they're really trying not to do that. But I think that's the only way. I ain't saying save, because I think college football ain't going anywhere, but the only way to make it where it makes sense. Because here's the way I look at it. If I'm the starting tight end at Auburn, and Georgia approaches me and says, hey, Auburn's paying you $500,000 a year to be the starting tight end, we'll pay you $1 million.
God, I hate Georgia.
Georgia pays them $1 million. Well, you know what? It is. It's a free country. How can anybody tell me I can't go? That's cool. I'm going to go to Georgia. But Georgia then needs to go write a check to Auburn to buy him out of that contract.
His buyout, right. That's a good point.
And so now what's going to happen is if they know they got to write a check, they're less likely to go tamper. They're less likely to go, and if there's a cap, and hey, I'm not going to, if I know I got to give something over to my rival to take that kid, which to me is only fair, buy him out of his contract. Now Auburn, who spent 3 years developing this kid, made him all this time, poured him, made him to a great athlete, don't just left holding nothing. They at least, hey, you know what? We at least got the money for his contract. Or I'm going to sign this really good player out of high school. Hey, if you'll come to Auburn, I'm going to put you on a 3-year deal. The first year, you may make $250. The second year, we'll pay you $5 million. Your third year, if you're here in 3 years, we'll pay you $1 million. So now there's incentive for these guys to see it through.
To see it through, yeah.
That's right. And if you want to go somewhere else, they got to buy you out of your contract. They got to pay you the full. What's going to happen now is you'll have to see kids stay at programs. There'll be movement because somebody will buy out of a contract, but you'll see guys stay in their program. In my opinion, they'll stay there. They'll see it through, knowing there's incentive to stay. They're going to get paid more. And I think it'll slow down this madness a little bit. And then what will happen is less kids will transfer, and then it'll go back to colleges, recruiting high school kids and develop them again, because now there'll be more spots and there'll be more incentive to sign those type contracts. There's a lot of flaws in that. That's not an easy fix, but this is just my opinion. I think they're going to have to get to the contract part. And then even like a place like a Troy or a South Alabama, let's say they sign a kid and he becomes a great player, there's got to be some type of fee that these big schools, because it's decimating Group of Fives. FCS football is a JUCO league. I mean, literally, half their roster turns over every year. Mm-hmm. So it's like, why would anybody want to coach in that? I mean, you can't build a program unless you just got used carsman sales, and you can just hustle kids in there. But I don't know how you can't build a program. So if I keep using Georgia, but if Georgia wants to go take Troy's best player, they probably can't buy him out of a contract because he didn't have a great contract to begin with. Mm-hmm. But there's got to be some type of fee. You got to pay Troy University $200,000.
And there should be full disclosure if you go to Georgia. Yeah. Your old men and women will bark at you all the time, and that's just ridiculous. I hate Georgia. I really don't like. But anyway,
full disclosure. That's a long answer to a short question. But anyway, that's my NIL soapbox. So.
And then the trickle down effect of that is real too. Like Georgia High School Athletic Association now allows NIL.
Yeah.
How long before the AHSAA does something like that or has to give into it?
I've been asked that a couple of times. I don't know. I know Georgia has modified theirs. They have modified theirs, and they felt pressure early on to do it. I'll say this: there's a growing two parts. I do think at some point there'll be a version of this in high school sports. I don't know when. I don't think it's going to happen as soon as people think in Alabama. There's a lot of people just aren't in favor of it.
I'm not.
But
not for high school
I think
kids?
there is a thought now is like, hey, before we pass this into effect, let's pump the brakes. Let's see how this is going to land in college football, because it's changed every year. So for us to just rush out and pass a bill and allow NIL, college football, the version of NIL now is probably not what it's going to be 5 years from now.
Yeah.
So why not let's wait and see, all right, how that looks. Again, if a kid is truly making money off his ability, how can you say no to that? But everybody in this room, how many people do we know? How many high school kids can you think of all time? I mean, I can only probably think of a handful could truly get money off of his ability. Maybe LeBron James when he came out, maybe some superior track athlete. But what it is, all NIL is still pay for play. I mean, those contracts are real. I've seen a few. Mm-hmm. But then you start looking at those contracts and the companies that are behind them, they're also the companies, the NIL groups that run certain universities' NIL programs. And you're like, man, it's just dirty. It's just very it's very slimy, yes. And the question asked, who's gonna? So what? Because I just my heart of hearts, I don't think Joe's tire shop is going to put a high school kid on the front of his building to promote. Nobody's going to care enough. You know what I mean?
Sitting Varsity Blues.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there may be a handful of incidents around, like I said, there may a phenom like a LeBron James when he was coming out, or somebody like that. Yeah, I could see that where people. But really, what it is these kids are getting contracts because on the future that they're going to sign a bigger contract.
Right.
That's really what it is. Mm-hmm. Hey, this NIL groups will pay this kid $40,000 to go play high school sports because he wants 20% of his $2 million contract when he chooses between Florida and
so these
Georgia.
Guys are playing the long game.
Yeah. And that is the reality of what's going on. So yeah, if that's what people want, then I guess that's what a state legislator passes. That's what they want. I don't know. I don't think anybody agrees that's what's really meant to be high school athletics.
No, but certainly I would think that the funds exist for there to be NIL in the state of Alabama. When you look around at the arms race of facilities that exist for athletics in the state, I mean, it's crazy. You remember?
Yeah.
You were around when Prattville built the indoor.
Yep.
First of its kind, and it in the first turf field, and it launched this arms race in the state.
Yeah.
We kind of took a back seat in that, but these other schools came up and just built palaces.
Yep.
And now you at the HSAA, you see all this stuff. You get to tour around and see it all firsthand. What's the deal? I mean, how do you compete with that? You really can't compete with that here right now. But
no, and everybody in this room knows, and it's been well documented. Just the funding for education and athletics, and I do think Prattville's making a lot of progress.
Sure.
Compared to where we were 5 years ago. I think that's everybody can see that. But they're doing everything they can with what they have. That's it. And what people understand, it is very nice. I mean, I know the people are appreciative that are supporters of athletics, or at least appreciative of what is trying to be done. I mean, I think just from the outside, I've had the beauty of being in it for a few years, stepping out and kind of looking on the outside in. You're glad to see some stuff.
Yeah.
But like I tell people, you're still 10, 15 years behind. Even what you're doing now hadn't even really caught up to what some of these others. And I think we said it a couple of years ago, and just if we're moving to the high school talk of, I always said, I was like, man, if people would go see that region around Birmingham.
We saw it this past year.
And then Prattville got put in that region.
Yeah.
And I think it really opened a lot of eyes to people who went up there and they traveled and they took their son to go watch that game. And they're like, wow. It's like, guys, we've been comparing yourselves to Montgomery and Elmore County, and you're nowhere in the ballpark to what these schools are doing and what they're funding, how they're funding their high school education and athletics. And
well, heck, Caleb, the danger of it now is that we go to these games and we see these big places, and the kids decide, well, this is where I'm going to play next year, and so they do it. I'm like, oh, great! Now they're further behind the eight ball.
Yeah,
getting exposed to things you didn't know existed.
I agree, and that's the day. We always talked about, in going back to the college talk. When I was at Tulane last year, we played Oklahoma and we played Kansas State. Man, you're almost like, man, you want to go beat these schools, but you hope none of these guys have too good of a game because then Oklahoma's going to start. Hey, man,
they're going to get picked.
Hey, man, that's a great game. You look good in a crimson and white uniform. Or
nobody looks good in a crimson and white uniform.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Nobody looks good.
Poor choice of words there.
No, well, that's okay. I can't even focus now that you said that, but that's okay. That's
crimson
okay.
and cream. How about that?
Yeah.
Oklahoma crimson.
Okay. I don't even like that. It's too close. Oh, man. But you are now you stepped out of the coaching realm.
Yep.
And stepped into an administrative role as an assistant director of the HSAA. Talk about how that transition happened.
Yeah, so I had a mentor, a friend of mine. This is back going, I guess, early part of December. That just checks in with me probably periodically, and he's a pretty important figure in the state. But anyway, reached out to me and we got talking about stuff, and he said, "Hey, wanted to see how you doing." Yada. I said, "Well, I'm doing good." And I knew like after this year at Tulane, I kind of gave myself a 3-year window of, hey, if I'm not climbing the ladder in college football, then I don't know if we'll stay, because it is, you go from being a head coach to now you're going to go back to low man on totem pole, and I knew that, and I lowered myself, and it was good not to probably for a little bit not be in charge of everything. But then after a while, you're like, all right, are we moving up the world? Because just to say we're wearing a college logo, that was cool for a couple of years, but eventually, man, you want to advance your career. Anyway, so when we went down to Tulane, and a little bit of backstory for me, I was at Troy. I was an analyst in 2023. At the end after the conference championship game, John Summerall, head football coach, comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm about to make you the tight ends coach. I'm going to make some changes on our staff. I'm going to move our tight ends coach to be the O-line coach. I'm going to move you into his spot."
Heck of a coach.
And this is kind of what this is the goal. This is it. We finally got a chance to be on the field, be one of the 10. I was going to be a contract guy. I'm already out on the road recruiting. I'm up in Tennessee. I was in Mississippi. I'm coming back down doing the Super 7. And I'm pretty close with Coach Summerall, and our families are. But there was buzz about Wednesday or Thursday that, hey, Coach may be leaving. And we're on the road recruiting. You're in these schools, and you're like getting these texts, like, what's going on? But then you got to go in, hey, I'm Troy. That's a weird dynamic that you appreciate these guys that go through, because you're sitting there recruiting for Troy, knowing like, man, I don't even know where I'm going to be next week. You know what I mean? So, and that happens a lot. Yeah. But so finally, I remember leaving the Super 7 Thursday night, and I get a text, hey, he's taking the Tulane job. You're like, man, what's going on? So anyway, the next day, sure enough, he calls everybody off the road and says, hey, we're going to have a staff meeting at 2 o'clock. And by then, you already kind of know. And I knew. But anyway, and I knew, and some of our guys on our staff didn't. They're calling me, what's going on? I'm like, man, guys, y'all smart enough. This ain't good. Anyway, call back in. He's going to Tulane. All right. Then what's going to happen for us? Well, there's this whole deal. Hey, I think when Troy hires somebody, it could be the OC, the DC, and they're like, hey, you'll stay as tight ends coach. Anyway, long story short, I'm going to make this quick. It came down between our OC, DC, and then a guy named Jared Parker, who I had no clue was. Jared Parker gets the job. All right, Notre Dame OC, whatever.
Jared Parker.
Whatever. But look, I like Coach Parker. I think he's a good dude. But anyway, Coach Summerall knew him. So he's like, hey, he said, here's the deal. So I finally sat down with Coach Summerall and say, where am I in this whole process? Do you want me to come with you? And he said, I think you're going to have an opportunity at both. He said, I don't know what Tulane looks like. There's a couple of guys on staff I'm going to have to keep. I potentially would have an on-the-field spot, potentially could be off the field. But he said, I think Coach Parker is going to keep you. I've talked to him. He think yada, yada. I said, I think you got to make that decision. If you want to come, we'll work it out. But if not, I think, and at the time, it probably makes sense to stay in the state of Alabama. My connections are here, high school sports, yada, yada. Well, I finally sit down, talk with Jared Parker, and he's like, look, I feel good about doing this, but I don't have OC yet. And I don't want to cram every hire down his throat saying you got to hire this guy. So be patient. I feel like that we're going to do this. Well, all right, that's like on a December 27th. Well, I remember New Year's Eve night, I'm leaving my family's house. We had like a little get-together, and Jared Park calls, says, hey, I got to bring my own guy from Notre Dame as a tight ends coach. So you're like, oh, my goodness. And there were some good high school jobs that were open. Just full disclosure, Hoover was open, and I'd gotten a few phone calls. Would you be interested? I mean, they didn't offer me the job, but would you be interested? Maybe, but I really want to stay college. Well, those they'd already passed. I mean, they were about to hire somebody. So you're like, man, what are my options? Called Coach Summerall, told him what happened. He said, well, let me work on it. Next day, he says, hey, I got a spot. It's not going to be exactly what you want. It's an analyst spot. So move our whole family down to New Orleans. It was a great experience, but you just kind of understood, like, your connections were in Alabama. It just didn't feel like you were things were progressing the way they wanted, even though I got to coach and do a lot. So anyway, I know that's a long backstory, but of why we're here. So we're already kind of a little frustrated. Just like, man, where we're going. I get a phone call from a mentor and says, hey, I got 2 things I want to present to you. One, there's a good high school job. If you want it, I think they will hire you. And I'll, it's whatever, relevant to the job. But anyway, I said, okay, I'll think about that. And he said, but I got another thing. He said, would you be interested in being over football for the Alabama High School Athletic Association? Caught me way off guard. Truly out of left field.
Yeah.
Like, man, I ain't really ever thought about that. And he said, I think you would do a great job, and I think it could be something that if you did a really good job, I could honestly see in the future you being the guy. He said, and I've always thought that. And he said, well, you obviously got to do a good job in what you're doing. But I said, well, let me think about it. So we go play in a bowl game. Another college in the state hired a new coach at the Group of 5 level. I knew him through him recruiting Prattville High School. Y'all can probably put 2 and 2 together, man. So I had a chance to get on there. At one point, thought I was going to be the running backs coach there. And even Coach Summerall talked with him, so I think he's going to hire you. Well, that fell through. Wow. And I talked with Coach Summerall, and he's like, man, look, you've done a heck of a job, but you don't have connections in Louisiana. So if I do have an opening, Caleb, I'm going to have to hire somebody in Louisiana. So you're sitting there thinking, I don't know if I got a future at Tulane. I can stay here in the same role, but I'm not going to grow.
Yeah.
It makes sense to go back and get on out of school in Alabama, but I just tried, and they ended up hiring somebody else. So it's like, man, what are my options here? And it's almost like any time a college door I tried to go in it, it was shutting. But every time I was talking to Heath Harmon with the association, he's like, hey, Caleb, I really want you. I said, well, man, can you give me time? You're the guy I want. I'll be patient. What about this? Can y'all help me with this? Can we get to this? It was yes. So you felt like every door kept opening.
Yeah.
So we prayed, and, man, we made the decision. We're going to do it. And we took the job. It's a different role, but I've really enjoyed what it's allowed me to do. It's on most days it's an 8 to 5, but you do have to cover events. Those are long days, things like that. But for the most part, it's allowed me to catch my breath and have time to be a good dad again and have time to be a family man. So anyway, that's I know that's probably way too long of an answer to
that's
short
great
question, but
it sounds
that's
like
kind of how it all came. It was really, I guess what I'm saying, I truly feel like this is where God's leading me.
Yeah.
And I mean that. I truly this is where God wants me in this role. I'm embracing it. We want to make the most of it. We want to make a career out of it. I will tell people, man, we've all learned to, because I get asked all the time, will you go back into coaching? I was like, man, I don't know. I know this. I'm enjoying what I do. I want to make the most of this. But I've learned to never say never. I mean, and not saying I'm trying to leave a door open. I'm not. We're going full speed ahead. We're doing the best of this job and see where this takes us. But you also learn that, God, I know this. Where I'm supposed to be right now is where I'm at. So,
well, it's the old adage, when God closes a door, he opens a window.
Sure.
It sounds like that was not your case. It sounds like more like when God closes this door, he opened a garage door for you. It's like, this is the way.
Yeah.
Right? Probably not anything you had planned.
No.
But God had it ordained from the start. And Dick.
Hey, I just wanted to. You were talking about how fast everything moved. I got a little story. You may not even remember this.
Okay.
About concerning you how fast things move. It was a few years back. It was after your first year down there with at Troy.
Yeah.
My sister was going to stay with my cousins down on the coast, so I was like, okay, I'll go meet them halfway in Troy. Pick them, we're gonna pick them up and everything. So I called Caleb the day before. Hey, I'm gonna be in Troy Saturday. It was like a Saturday. Hey, can I come by and just check out the place and holler at you? And he goes, oh, yeah. Just happy-go-lucky, having just a good old time. But yeah, come on by anytime. So we go Troy. I'm in Troy eating at the, what's the place, the home cooking place, the big giant one that everybody goes to.
Oh, yeah, Sisters.
Sisters. We're sitting there eating. And, I'm getting ready to go. As soon as they get due, they're going to take off, and I'm going over to campus and everything. And then I see my phone ringing, and it's Caleb. And I pick up the phone and say, hey, what's up? And he goes, And the voice went from pure, happy-go-lucky the day before to, Stacy, I'm not going to be able to meet with you today. We got some things going on around here, and things are getting a little tense. I can't get into it right now, but I'm going to have to just we're not going to be able to do it today. I was like, oh, and then, you know how the coaching world operates.
The carousel is turning.
And I'm clicking my head. I almost want to say, hey, Coach, don't worry about it. I know exactly what you're saying. So, and literally by the time I left Sisters and got back to Booth, Alabama, Chip Lindsey was let go.
Yeah. It happens.
And it happens in the blink of an eye.
It is. And you're just in disarray. I mean, those are wild. That experience is different when you truly have. I've been very blessed. I've never been fired, but I have been in a very not knowing what the future state twice now. Mm-hmm. Once when Coach Lindsey was let go, and that was wild too, man. And I just don't know who they're going to hire. And that was what was frustrating there is I finally, I was coaching. That's a wild story. I was an analyst, and the NCAA didn't really allow analysts to coach. But this ain't shocking news. But at the Group of 5 level, every analyst coached.
Yeah,
and it just had to hide around compliance and all that. So the first day of August, our tight ends coach, special teams guy, Dane Brown, who's now the new head coach at Faulkner, or whatever, test positive for COVID. It was when COVID was still going on. So Coach Lindsey comes to him and says, "Hey, you got to go in that room, tight ends, coach tight ends." Well, so he's doing his 14 days or whatever, all the crazy regulations, whatever. So I coached tight ends the whole August camp. He comes back, and he gets back in that room. He get back in that room. He's like, "Man, you keep it up right now. I'm just going to help." Well, he's there a day or two, and he goes to Coach Lindsey and says, "Hey, Caleb's doing. He can handle. He's a good enough coach. He can handle the room. It would allow me to focus more on special teams." So I coached tight ends the whole year. His name was on it. He got the contract for it and all that. And that's other parts about analyst spots, and I'll get to that here in a second. So I got to coach, and then Coach Lindsey gets let go. Brandon Hall becomes the interim. He puts me on the field. So I was an on-the-field tight ends coach for the last game of the year for Georgia State. And I got to go recruit. Alex actually was Super 7. I was helping the guys that we had committed. That was my job. And I was so excited to be in college football. You get these vets, when they were like, "Man, bump this. I'm recruiting patrol." I mean, they're all like trying to find with their agents, trying to find jobs. I'm just happy to be there. So I'm like, "Hey, man, we got 6 kids committed. Somebody's got to make sure they're going to be committed to Troy." So I'm driving all over the state, recruiting. Anyway, and then Coach Summerall gets hired. And what was good for me is Coach Summerall had recruited McGill-Tulane. He recruited Mobile. So I knew him, had a good relationship with him. And he's like, "Look, I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to stay." And so I ended up staying. One thing about that analyst stuff, it's a little bit off topic, but it's kind of the thing about those jobs. We go to Tulane, and we brought our offensive staff with us, so I know our offense. And I got put in, and Coach wanted me to go in the room with the wide receivers. Our wide receiver coach, guy named Carter Sheridan, really good dude, really good recruiter, a really good position coach. He knows how to coach the position of wide receiver. Knew nothing about our offense. So I know our offense. So what happened? Look, he's a smart guy. He was learning it, but I knew it. I knew the ins and outs. So by come fall camp, man, I'm running a lot of our meetings. Yeah. I'm doing a lot of the installs. You're doing a lot of the corrections. You're doing a lot of the in-game adjustments. You're doing a lot of the tips and reminders. You're coaching the position. The hard part of that is he's got the contract. He's got the 2-year contract. You're an at-will employee. He's got the bowl bonus. He's got the car stipends, all the type of stuff that comes with that. And not that everything's about money, but
at some point it's got to be a little bit about money.
And so then when you after the season and your head coach and those cities like, "Hey, we know you," and he did a good job. I don't ever want to take anything away from Carter Sheridan. He's a good ball coach. We know you coach that room a lot.
Yeah.
We know, but I can't ever put you on the field. You're going to always be in this role because he has the connections and recruiting and stuff. So it's like, you want me to hold the rope while somebody else climbs up it? And so anyway, that's another backstory of why. Not that I'm saying I'm mad and jaded, but when this other opportunity comes about, and you're thinking, I can stay in this role where you're always going to be. And growing, me and Coach Summerall have a great relationship. He called me yesterday. We really good. one of my favorite people in the world, man. Dynamic, will be head coach in the SEC very shortly. All right, but anyway, I get his. I understand the position he was in, but you're like, man, I can stay here and probably never be appreciated for what I really do, or go back into an organization where I feel like I can make an impact. So
yeah.
And that's kind of like I said, and God was pushing me there. Not only can I make an impact in the high school sports, it puts me back in the retirement system, which is one, and I get to spend more time being a family man, being a dad, being a husband, and anyway. So that's probably I should have got to that answer a while ago, but
And you can walk on any field you want to now.
yeah,
Nobody can stop you. You're kind of in charge.
They kind of need to let me there do that, but may get booed, but it's like. I have noticed that a little bit, not too much, but now that you're in this role, people feel like you're like the police or something. Though you're like, man, I really just want to come hang out, and they're like, okay, yeah, coach, we'll have you here, and I'm like, whoa, just chill out, man. We ain't trying to.
I'm just coming to have a cup of coffee with you.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've talked to a ton of coaches over the years, but I will honestly say, like, you were genuinely one of the good guys, and one of my favorite coaches of all time. You're not only a good coach, but you're a good friend, and we appreciate you coming and spending some time with us today. I know you're busy. You got Jack at baseball. You got RC with you today, and it's just a lot going on. So we really appreciate you.
No, I appreciate y'all having me for sure. So I do.
Well, one of the pleasures of this podcast is the the supporting cast, and we have some great supporters. Of course, you know them very well, Donnie Burnett and Chip Powell. A lot of people don't know about Chip's poetic prowess, or Donnie's. Most people know about Donnie's motivational prowess, but not Chip's poetic prowess. So we like to end every show with a motivational minute by our Coach Donnie Burnett and New York Life agent Chip Powell, the last All-SEC cornerback from Auburn that carries the Powell name. 1986. Never let that go to waste.
I actually watched him play. How about
Did you?
that? Yeah, I did. I went to the 1986 Iron Bowl in Legion Field. Yep, I sure did. So I've actually I don't think I ever told Chip that. I've actually watched him play. Maybe one of these days I'll get his autograph. How about that?
Well, I've not been able to get it yet. It costs $10.
Well, you're going to get something even more special now because he actually wrote a poem about you.
Oh,
so this is
I have not heard this.
Yeah, this is a world premiere of this Chip Powell poem here. So
this is a treat.
Y'all gonna enjoy this.
All righty, guys, it's great to be back. It's been forever. I don't even know the time frame we've been gone on the preferred experience, but man, I have got unnumbered number of poems that I've come up with here. And I've got one special today, really, for our special guest, honoring Caleb Ross, one of Prattville's finest sons coming home, and he's been on the trail through Troy and Tulane, and he's back now working in Montgomery with a AHSAA, and we're so proud of him. And with that, I thought I'd put a poem together just in honor of Caleb Ross. And I'll start with it now. In New Orleans, where the jazz notes play, Coach Ross arrived to coach the Green Wave. With gumbo rich and beignets sweet, Bourbon Street's charm made his heart skip a beat. He thrived in the city, vibrant and bright, cheering fans and thrilling nights. But home called out with a familiar song, so he packed his dreams and headed along. Back to the fields where his roots run deep, a new chapter awaits, memories to keep. Through New Orleans magic we'll linger near, Coach Ross returns with a heart full of cheer. There you go. That's honoring our guest, Caleb Ross. Coach, I call him Coach. Sometimes I call him Caleb, but he's Coach. Coach, I'm glad you're home. Welcome home.
I mean,
That's actually really good. He did a good job. I feel like I'm on the movie Mr. D. Did you ever see Mr. D? Yeah.
Of course.
But no, I was awesome.
A Hallmark Chip.
I never knew he had that in him.
He does. I mean, not many people know that, but as the preferred experience rolls on, more people are realizing that. He's probably not long for this area. He's probably going to get called to like New York.
Yeah, Chip Powell is full of poetry.
But to be, it really was good. He did a good job with it. I was good. I couldn't do that. So I'm sure he listens. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chip. That was awesome, man. And I know he's a family friend, and our family's my dad and his dad. His dad coached my dad in high school, man. Yep. And I get to coach his son, man. You know, our families will forever be connected, and he is my insurance agent too. So
there you go.
There's
a common bond.
But yeah, that's cool. That's really pretty cool. So.
Well, let's close this thing out the way we close every show out on the Preferred Experience, the podcast, with the Motivational Minute by Coach Donnie Burnett.
This is Coach Donnie Burnett, and here's today's Motivational Minute. Our quote today comes from Douglas Adams, and I think it's very fitting for Coach Ross. I may not have gone where I intended to go, but I think I have ended up where I needed to be. This is Coach Donnie Burnett, and that's today's Motivational Minute.
Or not, Caleb. He's kind of talking about your end.
No, but it's cool though. I can live with that. That's good. No, that's good.
you still got a long time to go.
Oh yeah, man. Like I said, but hey, that's fair. I think it's fair. I like it.
Well, we like having you here today, and we really appreciate it. And no better way to restart the Preferred Experience podcast than having you with us, and hopefully you'll be with us several more times as we roll on.
We just touched the surface of his college experience here lately. We ain't even got into the good old stories.
We can talk about some Prattville football. Yeah, I'd love to. No, this was I enjoyed
hours and hours and hours of material that exist with this.
We still got the 800-pound gorilla in the room to talk about. The Miami trip will always be. We've got our perspective on record now. We need Coach's perspective on this.
That is a chapter in the Prattville book that needs to be written one of these days, along with a special chapter called Mike McCabe too. But that's another story.
Yes. In fact, it'd be great to have him here.
And also, I want to thank Will.
Aliens.
I want to thank Will Barrett here for crawling out from under the boat, scraping barnacles off to come in off the bench and scab play for us today.
I'm going to have you know that this can be yours from the Temu shop for $11.
Shane Falco.
Shane Falco jersey.
It's the whole thing. I got it all. Sugar Shane Falco. Footsteps Falco. You can smell the stink all the way back in Wales.
Love it. That's awesome. And if in case you don't know, you can see that movie. It plays 14 times a week on
TNT.
It does.
It does. The Ride for Shawshank Redemption. Right?
That's it. That's right. Con Air.
I bought that on Apple TV for $5 yesterday. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Con Air.
That's great. Still good.
The greatest Nicolas Cage movie of all time.
It is straight up the greatest accent ever in a movie.
It is. It is.
The worst fake Southern accent of all time.
Maybe Forrest Gump is a close second.
And it truly is one of those movies you're like, man, every time it's on, you find yourself watching 8 minutes at a time, 9 minutes at a time, 5 minutes. Like, why am I watching? I've seen this.
Exactly.
It's terrible.
It's great to turn on at like 10 o'clock and just let it run.
Hey, there's a reason why these channels play these movies repeatedly, because you've seen it a million times, but you're going to stop and watch it. I call it the Shawshank effect. Every time Shawshank's on, you just got to watch it.
That's it. No doubt.
100% of the time. I've never seen the whole movie, though.
That's it. I don't think I've ever seen any of these movies from start to finish. It's great. So.
Looking forward to seeing it one day. Well, for Coach Ross, I'm Will Barrett, and this Mills are behind the camera, and that's RC over there in the producer's chair. And we'll see you next time on the Preferred Experience podcast.